pain is a strange teacher. When life delivers a moment that cuts deep, like discovering that your best friend kissed your husband, the first wave that crashes over you is shock. Your heart pounds, your chest feels heavy, and your mind spins in circles, trying to make sense of what just happened. You feel betrayed on two levels. By the one you committed your life to, and by the one you trusted as a sister, a confidant, someone you believed would protect your happiness, not jeopardize it. In that moment, pain feels unbearable, almost suffocating, as if everything you knew to be safe and secure has been snatched away. Yet, hidden within that pain is a wake-up call, a sharp reminder that life is constantly nudging us toward growth, even if it uses the harshest tools to get our attention. Betrayal has a way of shaking the very foundation we stand on. It challenges the illusions we built around love, friendship, and loyalty. When you give your heart to someone, whether it's a partner or a best friend, you create expectations. You expect truth, respect, protection, and faithfulness. When those expectations collapse, your identity feels as though it's been wounded. Questions begin to pour in. Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? Was I too trusting? These questions echo endlessly, and with every repetition, the pain deepens. Yet, beneath those questions lies the real invitation. To pause and realize that this event, as devastating as it feels, is an opportunity to awaken to your own strength, to learn lessons you never would have confronted without the sting of betrayal. You see, pain has two paths. One path is where we get stuck. We replay the event over and over, attaching to the anger, feeding the resentment, and locking ourselves in the role of the victim. The other path is where pain becomes the signal flare, showing us that something in our life needs to shift. This is where pain becomes the greatest motivator, because when you've been broken by the ones you trusted the most, you are faced with the chance to look inward and discover a reservoir of power that was always there but had never been called upon before. Think of it this way: betrayal strips away illusions. It removes the mask of people who were never meant to carry the title of forever in your story. As much as it hurts, it reveals truth, and truth, even when it cuts, is the foundation of freedom. Without this pain, perhaps you would have continued walking in a comfort zone, unaware of the shadows lurking behind smiles and friendly gestures. Pain shines a bright light on what was hidden, and although that light feels blinding at first, it is what ultimately frees you. This kind of wake-up call isn't gentle. It's not wrapped in kindness. It's raw, and it tests you to your core. But think of the way muscles grow. They only strengthen after being torn. Think of how gold is purified. It must be put through fire. Your heart, your mind, your spirit are no different. The fire of betrayal feels like destruction, but in reality, it's purification. It burns away naivety, it destroys illusions, and it forces you to stand taller, wiser, and more self-aware than before. At first, it doesn't feel like a lesson. It feels like punishment. You want to scream, to cry, to demand answers that may never come. But slowly, if you allow yourself to sit with the pain, you begin to see that this wound is also a mirror. It reflects back to you where your boundaries need to be stronger. It shows you where you may have ignored your intuition. It teaches you that people's actions are not a measure of your worth, but of their own character. And most importantly, it demands that you stop outsourcing your happiness to others and begin creating it within yourself. This is why pain is a wake-up call. Without it, we grow comfortable, complacent. We move through life assuming loyalty, assuming truth, assuming love will always look the way we expect. Pain interrupts that illusion and shakes us awake, forcing us to evaluate the people in our lives, the standards we hold, and the value we place on ourselves. It strips us down, yes, but it also clears the ground for something stronger to be built. When your best friend kisses your husband, the immediate reaction is devastation. But with time, reflection, and willingness to grow, you'll come to see that the betrayal was not the end of your story. It was the alarm bell ringing, saying, "Wake up, you deserve better. You deserve honesty. You deserve loyalty. And most of all, you deserve to recognize the power within yourself to stand tall, even when the ground beneath you feels shattered. When betrayal strikes, negative feelings rise like a storm inside. The anger, the humiliation, the sadness, the disappointment, they all swirl together until it feels like you are drowning in them. It is natural to feel this way, because as human beings, we attach deeply to the people we love and trust. When that trust is broken, especially in such a personal and intimate way, it shakes our emotional world completely. But here is the truth: feeling these emotions is not the problem, holding on to them is. The real suffering comes not from the initial wound, but from clinging to the pain long after the event has passed. That is why detachment is the beginning of true healing. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you erase memories or pretend nothing happened. Detachment is the conscious decision to no longer allow someone else's actions to control the way you feel, to stop letting the betrayal dictate your peace of mind. It is the choice to separate who you are from what was done to you. Because the longer you carry anger and resentment, the more power you give away. Every time you replay the image in your mind, every time you rehearse the conversation you wish you had, every time you hold on to the bitterness, you are allowing that betrayal to live rent-free in your heart and mind. And the truth is, the people who hurt you do not deserve that much space in your life. Detachment is a process. It begins by recognizing that your emotions are valid. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. So yes, cry if you must. Scream into the silence if it helps. Write down your thoughts if they burn inside you. Let the feelings surface instead of suppressing them. But once they have been felt, once you have acknowledged the wound, you must begin to loosen your grip on them. Think of your emotions like water flowing through your hands. If you try to squeeze too tightly, it slips away, but your hand remains clenched, tense, and in pain. When you relax your hand, the water flows naturally, and you are free. Negative feelings are the same. They need to flow through you, not stay locked inside of you. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Every stone represents anger, sadness, jealousy, guilt, and pain. At first, you may not notice the weight. You convince yourself you can carry it. But as days turn into weeks, weeks into months, the weight begins to crush you. It affects the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you see life. Detachment is the act of opening that backpack and setting the stones down, one by one. Each time you let go of a negative feeling, you walk lighter, you breathe easier, and you regain control of your energy. This is not easy, because the mind wants to hold on. It believes that if you stay angry, you are protecting yourself from future pain. But in reality, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It harms you, not them. Detachment requires a shift in awareness, a decision to protect your peace above all else. Ask yourself, is this anger serving me? Is this sadness helping me heal? Is this bitterness bringing me closer to the life I want? If the answer is no, then it is time to release it. One of the ways to detach is to reframe the betrayal. Instead of seeing it as the ultimate destruction, you begin to see it as a revelation. It showed you the truth about people you trusted. It revealed who they really are beneath the surface. And that knowledge, painful as it may be, is a gift. Because now you can make choices with clarity. Now you know who deserves a place in your future, and who doesn't. By changing the way you interpret the experience, you naturally loosen your emotional grip on it. Another part of detachment is choosing where to focus your attention. Your energy flows where your attention goes. If you constantly focus on the betrayal, you are feeding it. But when you redirect your focus to healing, to growth, to your own well-being, you weaken the grip of negative emotions. Replace the endless mental replay with practices that nurture your spirit. Reading, meditation, journaling, long walks, meaningful conversations, anything that restores your connection to yourself. Every time you shift your focus, you are reclaiming your power. Detachment also means creating boundaries. You must protect yourself from situations, conversations, or people that drag you back into the pain. If being around certain places or hearing certain names triggers the wound, limit your exposure. It is not about running away. It is about giving yourself the space to heal. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors that you choose to open or close depending on what supports your peace. In time, detachment gives you the freedom to see the betrayal without feeling consumed by it. You can look at the memory, acknowledge it, and move forward without the same sting. You recognize that you are no longer chained to what happened. You are no longer living in the shadow of the past. You are choosing to free yourself, to reclaim your energy, to no longer let anger and resentment dictate your days. That freedom is not a gift from anyone else. It is a gift you give yourself. When betrayal enters your life, the first instinct is almost always to ask, why me? It feels like a personal attack on your worth, as if somehow you were not enough for the people who hurt you. That question, however, keeps you stuck in a cycle of victimhood, because it assumes the betrayal was a reflection of you, when in truth, it was a reflection of them. The real shift begins when you step out of that mindset, and instead ask, what is this teaching me? That single change in perspective has the power to transform pain into growth, despair into wisdom, and bitterness into strength. Perspective is everything. Two people can go through the same situation and come out of it completely differently. One becomes hardened, filled with anger and resentment, unable to trust again. The other becomes wiser, stronger, and more aware of their own value. The difference between the two is not what happened, but how they chose to look at what happened. Shifting perspective is like turning the lens of a camera. Suddenly the blurry picture becomes clear, and you see details you never noticed before. The betrayal doesn't change, but the meaning you give to it does. When you stop asking, why me? You stop feeding the belief that you were the problem. You stop putting yourself in the position of being less, of being unworthy, of being incomplete. Instead, you begin to see that this painful experience is a mirror, showing you areas of your life that need attention. Maybe it is teaching you to set firmer boundaries. Maybe it is teaching you to listen more closely to your intuition, because deep down you sensed something was wrong long before it unfolded. Maybe it is teaching you that your happiness cannot be dependent on another person's actions, because the moment it is, you are at risk of losing yourself. This perspective shift is not about denying the hurt. The pain is real, the betrayal is real, and the emotions are valid. But when you allow yourself to see it as a lesson rather than just a punishment, the pain becomes purposeful. It becomes the fuel that pushes you to grow into someone stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. You start to realize that life does not happen to you. It happens for you. Even when it comes in the form of heartbreak. Every challenge carries a lesson hidden inside it, and the sooner you begin searching for that lesson, the sooner you regain control over your healing. For instance, think of someone who is betrayed by both a partner and a best friend. At first, it feels like life is crumbling, but with a shift in perspective, they may come to realize that this event revealed who truly belongs in their circle and who doesn't. It exposed deception that might have lingered for years. It forced them to confront the uncomfortable truth that not everyone deserves access to their heart. Seen from this lens, the betrayal is no longer just a wound. It is a form of protection, removing people who would only cause deeper harm in the future. Perspective also changes how you view yourself. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you begin asking, "What do I deserve moving forward?" This question moves you from self-blame to self-value. It reminds you that you are not defined by the actions of others, but by the standards you choose for yourself. When you view the betrayal as a teacher, you begin to rebuild your sense of worth, piece by piece, no longer based on what someone else gives you, but on what you know you are worthy of receiving. Another layer of perspective is recognizing that forgiveness is not about excusing what happened, but about freeing yourself. When you see betrayal as a lesson, forgiveness becomes easier, not because the act was acceptable, but because you understand the purpose it served in your journey. Holding on to bitterness chains you to the past, but forgiveness, through the lens of perspective, releases you into the future. You start to see forgiveness not as a gift to those who wronged you, but as a gift to yourself, a declaration that you will not carry their actions as a burden any longer. Shifting perspective also gives you the courage to rise above the story. Betrayal often makes people feel small, powerless, and trapped in a narrative of pain. But when you ask, "What is this teaching me?" you lift yourself out of that story and into a new one, a story of growth and transformation. Instead of being the one who was betrayed, you become the one who overcame, the one who learned, the one who refused to let pain define them. That is the power of perspective. It turns wounds into wisdom and scars into symbols of resilience. And perhaps most importantly, shifting perspective opens the door to gratitude, even in the midst of pain. Gratitude not for the betrayal itself, but for the clarity it brought, for the lessons it forced you to learn, for the strength it awakened inside of you. Gratitude that you discovered the truth before wasting more years in deception. Gratitude that you now see your own value more clearly. Gratitude that life has shown you what you will no longer accept. This kind of gratitude is not easy, but it is liberating, because it allows you to rise above bitterness and embrace the possibility of something better. Rebuilding inner power after betrayal is not an instant process. It is a journey, one that begins in the quiet moments, when you are left alone with your thoughts, replaying what happened, questioning why, and struggling to understand how people you trusted could cause such pain. In those moments, it feels as though your sense of self has been shattered. But this is exactly where the seed of transformation is planted, because real strength is not built in times of comfort. It is forged in the fire of adversity. The betrayal becomes the very soil in which you can rebuild your power, not from revenge or bitterness, but from reconnecting with the love and worth within yourself. Inner power begins with self-awareness. After such a deep wound, you are forced to confront who you truly are when everything you leaned on has been shaken. You begin to ask questions not just about the people who betrayed you, but about yourself. What do I truly deserve? What will I no longer tolerate? How do I choose to define myself now? These questions may feel heavy, but they are the foundation of growth. Each answer brings you closer to rediscovering the part of yourself that cannot be broken, the part that has always been strong, but was hidden under layers of dependency on others for love and validation. The rebuilding process requires patience. Your emotions will rise and fall like waves. Some days you may feel powerful, ready to face the world with a renewed spirit. Other days, you may feel consumed by anger, sadness, or loneliness. This fluctuation is normal, because healing is not linear. The key is to keep moving forward, even if slowly, by reminding yourself that your strength is not in never feeling weak, but in choosing not to stay in that weakness. Every time you pick yourself up after the emotional storm, you are rebuilding another layer of your inner power. Part of this rebuilding comes from redefining love. Betrayal can make you question love altogether. It makes you wonder if you can ever trust again, if love is even worth it. But real healing comes when you stop looking for love outside of yourself and begin nurturing it within. Self-love is not a cliché. It is the cornerstone of true strength. It is in the way you speak to yourself when the inner critic tries to take over. It is in the way you take care of your body, mind, and spirit when all you want to do is give up. It is in the boundaries you set, refusing to let anyone diminish your worth again. When you reconnect with love for yourself, you create a foundation so solid that no one else's betrayal can shake it. Rebuilding inner power also means shifting from reaction to creation. Betrayal makes you feel reactive, as if life is happening to you, and you are just struggling to keep up. But your power returns when you realize you are not defined by what happened. You are defined by what you do with it. Instead of reacting with endless resentment, you can choose to create a new vision for your life. You can channel your pain into purpose, deciding that this experience will be the catalyst for a stronger, wiser version of yourself. You can begin setting goals, exploring passions, and building dreams that are entirely your own. This is how you reclaim control, by focusing not on what was taken, but on what you are capable of creating. Another essential part of regaining inner strength is forgiveness, but not in the traditional sense. Forgiveness is not about saying the betrayal was okay, nor is it about inviting those people back into your life. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself from the prison of resentment. It is the decision to no longer let their actions dictate your emotions or your peace of mind. When you hold on to anger, you are still giving them power. When you release it, you reclaim your freedom. Forgiveness, in this sense, is not weakness. It is one of the highest forms of strength, because it allows you to rise above what happened rather than remain chained to it. Rebuilding power also involves surrounding yourself with energy that lifts you rather than drains you. After betrayal, it is tempting to isolate completely, to wall yourself off from everyone. While solitude can be healing, complete isolation can deepen the wound. Inner power grows faster when you allow yourself to connect with people who value, respect, and encourage you. These connections remind you that not everyone will betray you, that there are still relationships built on trust and loyalty. Choosing carefully who you allow into your circle is part of protecting your newfound strength. Perhaps one of the most empowering shifts you can make is to see yourself not as a victim of betrayal, but as the author of your own story. Yes, painful chapters exist, but they do not define the ending. When you begin to view your life as something you are writing, moment by moment, you realize that every setback, every heartbreak, is simply a plot twist that pushes you toward growth. You have the pen in your hand, and rebuilding your power means consciously deciding to write from a place of resilience, wisdom, and self-worth, rather than bitterness and defeat. Rebuilding inner power is about learning to trust yourself again. Betrayal often leaves you doubting your instincts, wondering how you could have missed the signs. But through reflection and healing, you begin to reconnect with your intuition, realizing that it was always there, whispering in the background. This time, you promise yourself you will listen more closely. Trusting yourself again is the deepest form of empowerment, because it ensures that no matter what happens, you will never abandon your own truth.